And we appreciate you logging on to KBTX.com. We continue our online portion of the interview with the candidates for District 14, and in fact, a lot of the primaries, and Rick Davis, one of the GOP primary candidates. We appreciate you sticking around, Rick.
Thank you for having us.
So, again, I do want to ask, your motivations for running for office. You've served before on the judicial level, but now moving to the legislative level, whole different ball game.
Yes.
Why do it in this way?
Well, actually, I thought about ultimately serving in the legislature as far back as law school. Becoming a judge was something that I didn't expect to do. But at the time that I first ran in 1998, I thought there was a need, and answered the call, and enjoyed doing what I did there. But this is something that I've actually wanted to do longer than being a judge.
When it comes to a primary where there's an incumbent, it's incumbent upon the candidates to kind of differentiate themselves. So let's use the imaginary time machine. You can go back and you can change a decision maybe that Mr. Brown has made over his time, or make a decision that he chose not to make. What would you do? Is there anything different that you would do?
I can't really point out to one specific thing that he did, but I would just say in the totality of the circumstances, he hasn't done a whole lot. He hasn't been very aggressive in asserting the interests of District 14.
When it comes to your reputation locally, it's something that does get brought up on a regular basis, because not only did lawyers give you very high marks when you were behind the bench, but the state did come down on you a couple of times with some reprimands. And so there are people out there saying, can we put Rick Davis into an elected position? What would your response to those folks be?
Well, at the outset, I clearly recognize that the only power that I'll have in the legislature is the power of persuasion. I'll be one of 150 legislators, so it's a totally different ballgame. It's a totally different type of office. But there was a whole lot of politics involved with what was going on at the state. People talk about the second reprimand. The timing of that was pretty critical. October 31st, 2008, it was intended to be released right before the election. Were it not for the integrity of one Assistant Attorney General in Austin, it would have been released before then, but my lawyer, talked to them and said this is not the way it's supposed to be, and so I don't even want to revisit all those politics there, but there was a whole lot more there than meets the eye.
And so voters should not be concerned, in fact, about previous incidents?
Not at all, not at all. Again, I'll be their advocate, their spokesman, their champion, the champion of their causes if they elect me to the legislature in Austin.
Obviously, the budget and a pending deficit, or having to dip into the rainy day fund, is being talked about. Transportation has been on the table for a while now. What's an issue, in your opinion, that's not gotten the spotlight maybe on the state level or even the local level, and what would you do on that issue?
Well, one thing that I don't think we're talking about enough, or that people are not talking about enough, is how what is happening in Washington will affect us so much here in Texas. And I'm very, very concerned about just the rampant, flagrant spending in Washington, and they're printing money like they're spending money like it's going out of style. And I'm concerned about getting into a worse economic situation and how that's going to affect the state of Texas. I think we need to prepare for that. There are, for example, in early November, the country of India bought $200 billion worth of gold bullion. If the U.S. dollar no longer if it becomes to where it's not a reserve currency, we're in a lot of trouble, because our dollar will not be worth anything, and we could be looking at hyperinflation. And we need to prepare for that so that we can provide essential services at the state level.
Differentiation, obviously, between the current representative. You said you would try to be a little bit more active. As far as the other candidates, though, as a whole, what makes you stand out in your opinion?
Well, Buddy Wynn and Blanche Brick, I really have no criticism of them. I like them, good folks. But I think that I have a key advantage over all of the candidates in this race, because I have been a lawyer since 1992. I've also been a judge for more than 8 years, and I've seen how the law plays out in everyday life, the nuts and bolts of it close up. And I've seen laws passed with good intentions ended up having a bad result. And I think knowing that process and knowing how that actually affects people when it's applied, I think will give me a considerable advantage over my opponents.
Rick, we appreciate the time this morning, sir. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.